Did ancient humans wash their butts? Have you ever wondered how people cleaned themselves before toilet paper existed? It sounds like a strange question, but it's actually one of the most interesting parts of human history. Every person who has ever lived has faced the same problem. Long before modern bathrooms, long before toilet paper, and long before indoor plumbing, humans still had to figure out how to stay clean. Most people imagine ancient humans as dirty, smelly, and completely unconcerned with hygiene. Movies often show medieval towns covered in mud, ancient people living in filth, and everyone smelling terrible all the time. But the truth is much more surprising. For thousands of years, people around the world developed creative, practical, and sometimes very strange ways to clean themselves. Let's start with ancient Rome. The Romans were obsessed with cleanliness. They built massive bathhouses, complex sewer systems, and public toilets that were far more advanced than many people realize. Inside Roman public restrooms, people sat side by side on stone benches with holes cut into them. There were no walls, no privacy, and no separate stalls. Going to the bathroom was often a social activity. To clean themselves, Romans used something called a tersorium. It was essentially a sponge attached to a stick. After using it, the sponge was rinsed in water or vinegar and left for the next person. Yes, that means multiple people shared the same sponge. By modern standards, that sounds horrifying. But at the time, many Romans believed it was perfectly acceptable and even hygienic. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, people in ancient China had different solutions. Historical records suggest that bamboo sticks, wooden spatulas, and pieces of cloth were commonly used. In some regions, washing with water was preferred whenever possible. In fact, some of the earliest references to paper being used for personal hygiene come from China. By the 6th century, written records mention paper being used in bathrooms. Centuries later, Chinese imperial courts were reportedly producing enormous quantities of specially made toilet paper for members of the royal family. While much of the world was still using leaves and cloth, Chinese royalty already had something surprisingly close to modern toilet paper. In other parts of the world, people simply used whatever nature provided. Leaves were common, moss was common, grass was common. Some coastal communities used seashells. People living in snowy regions occasionally used snow. Others relied on smooth stones, animal fur, or soft plant fibers. The method often depended on climate, geography, and whatever materials were easily available. This raises an interesting question. If ancient people lacked modern products, were they actually less hygienic than we are today? Not necessarily. Many cultures believed that washing with water was superior to wiping. Even today, billions of people around the world use water as their primary method of cleaning after using the bathroom. Modern bidets are based on the same basic idea. In some ways, certain ancient practices may have been cleaner than methods that rely only on dry paper. Then there was medieval Europe. This period has a reputation for poor hygiene, but the reality is more complicated. People certainly lacked many modern conveniences, but they still cared about cleanliness. The wealthy often used scraps of cloth. Rural communities used hay, straw, moss, or leaves. Castles sometimes had primitive toilets built into the walls, allowing waste to fall into pits below. Monasteries developed their own sanitation practices, and some historical accounts suggest that old parchment or paper was occasionally repurposed for personal hygiene. It wasn't glamorous, but it got the job done. What's fascinating is that throughout history, people rarely viewed these methods as strange. To them, these solutions were completely normal. The same way we think toilet paper is normal today. In fact, if someone from ancient Rome suddenly appeared in your bathroom, they might find your soft, disposable paper incredibly wasteful. They might wonder why you use something once and immediately throw it away. History has a funny way of changing perspectives. The story becomes even more interesting when you realize that hygiene wasn't just about comfort. For many civilizations, cleanliness carried religious, cultural, and social importance. Ancient Egyptians bathed regularly and used scented oils. Many cultures developed rituals involving washing and purification. Cleanliness often represented discipline, respectability, and even spiritual purity. People weren't ignoring hygiene. They were simply working with the tools available to them. And some of those tools were surprisingly innovative. Romans used vinegar because it helped reduce odors and may have limited certain bacteria. Many societies discovered naturally antibacterial plants long before they understood germs. Others developed drainage systems and public sanitation networks centuries before modern science explained why they were important. Human beings have always been looking for ways to live cleaner, healthier lives. Today, we enjoy heated bathrooms, running water, soft toilet paper, and high-tech bidets. It's easy to take these things for granted. But every modern convenience is built on thousands of years of experimentation, adaptation, and problem-solving. So, did ancient humans wash their butts? Absolutely. They may not have done it the way we do today. Some of their methods sound uncomfortable, some sound clever, and some sound downright disgusting. But one thing is certain. For thousands of years, humans have been finding creative solutions to exactly the same problem. And the next time you reach for a roll of toilet paper, remember this. The history of human civilization isn't just a story of kings, wars, and empires. It's also the story of ordinary people trying to stay clean with whatever they had available. And sometimes, that story is much stranger than we ever imagined.